so the deal here is I bought a TD-8 used from some guy in San Francisco just because it was so cheap. It was such a great deal, and it came with these mesh pads that I didn't have any of. So I wanted to check out these pads. I had already bought and sold the TD-8 module before in the past, and I thought it was great actually, but I didn't really use it very much. But this came with these pads. I don't have any of these, and of this size even. So all the other Roland pads that I have, the mesh pads, are all 10s and 12s, and these are, I believe, 8s. So I thought it'd be cool to just check them out, and the price of the whole thing was so cheap, I just figured I would, just check it out for a little while and then sell it all. So that was a few months ago, and I've just been busy and I never really got around to it. So I had this project I was going to, and this is a video that's going to be coming soon, is demo how to upload a V-Expressions expansion pack onto the TD-8. So I did a similar video for the TD-10 expanded, and now I'm going to do the TD-8 just because it's kind of fun and historical. These are the TD-10 and the TD-8 are both from the same era, like 97 through early 2000s, something like that. So it's history, and there's people out there that still use these, so you never know who it might be helpful to. But so anyway, so I set up the drums just to get familiar with them before I do this V-Expressions upload. Because I need to know what I'm doing if I'm going to make a tutorial on how to do something. So I set everything up and I just started, playing. I'm just jamming along, doing my thing. And I just start selecting through the kits. And I come across this one kit. Let me turn it on here. Oh, it's called 1ManBand. Number 1ManBand. And so, it's kit number 6. So I was just cycling through them, just to check it out. So I found out with this kit, what it does is when you press down on the kick trigger, it gives you a bass note, a bass guitar note. And then it just cycles through various notes. I'm not totally sure on the programming of it. I was going to spend some time, and I still might, but I just started jamming along, Just started playing because it's fun. It's kind of cool. And, as a drummer, it's awesome when you're totally locked in with the bass player. And with this, there's no way to not be locked in. So even if your drumming sucks, it's going to be totally dialed in with the bass, which is awesome. So anyway, so that struck me as really cool. It's like, it's straight out of the box. So I started jamming to it, I'm having fun, and it reminded me of a video I saw earlier in that same day. So this was yesterday. And it was Schack, who's a Roland rep. I don't know what his official title is, but he demos all the Roland tech. Drums is what I've seen. I don't know what else he does. But, and he demos like interesting ways to use Roland products. And in this one video, he was actually playing bass guitar. I didn't see any Roland's effects or anything. I was going to send him a message. Where's all the Roland bass guitar effects? But, what's the point in that? And but what he was demoing was, so he's playing bass guitar. I didn't even know. I thought he was just a drummer, but he's totally ripping. He's just, like really good. And, as far as I can tell, I'm not a bass player, but it sounded awesome to me and it looked good. But what he was doing with his feet was playing these Roland pads that are designed for, just sitting, and you stomp on the pads and it will play, like in his case, I think it was a clap and a bass drum. I forget what it was, but it was just kind of just keeping rhythm, but with his feet. So if you're a bass player, I could see how that would be fun, just have some sort of percussion accompaniment And so he demoed this, and I thought, you know, it was really cool. And then I play this thing as total coincidence. And so I'm just like, wow, this is really awesome, and what a coincidence. And I just thought, I need to make a video. And so I started taking it more seriously. I was just playing around before, but so then I started thinking, okay, well, how do I do this? And then, you know, because you can't really control the notes, at least as far as I'm aware, you can't control the notes that the bass plays. It just kind of cycles through these notes. I don't know. So in Roland terms, it's called a backing track. And then you push the pattern button. You know, I don't know much about it yet. I plan to learn more. But what I could figure out by just playing with it is it will always start. There's like a certain amount of time where it resets. So you can develop like an intro. And then it'll play that intro the same way every time. So I knew that. So I knew, okay, I need to get an intro. So I came up with, you know, and that's about as far as I got with the intro. And then it's just improv the rest of the way. And then I never really got the hang of how to end it, but I did end it like a couple of times with you know, the yeah, it was just, it's totally luck. At least for me, it was luck that I ended with the notes that I was hoping it would end with, and it just did. And I'm just like, yes. And the performance, you know, there's a little bit of slop in there, but you know, hey. I was doing this quick, you know, I mean, I actually spent a lot of time on camera angles to make sure I don't get this, which is freaking awesome. This is going to be, what's over here is so killer. I can't wait. And then what is right here is awesome too. And right here is something else that's really cool. And right here is this massive beast that is in my intro. But I have a massive video prepared, started, and it's just a matter of finishing it up. But so I had to spend a lot of time on the camera angles to make sure I'm not giving away too much. That was the second motivation. So the first motivation, I'm doing this V-Expressions upload, so I had to get prepared for it. The second motivation was this Michael Schack thing that was freaking awesome. And then, so I started jamming along, and I started thinking of like Chick Corea electric band. You know, any drummer, well, a lot of drummers, at least of my age, know Dave Weckl, and you know,
Dave Weckl on drums.
You know, he's awesome. The guy is freaking great. I actually saw him live in LA just in 2016, and actually hung out with him at the bar. You know, just because, you know, it's a jazz, you know, and you know, at a jazz club, it's not like a big rock show where the rock stars are off in some sequestered somewhere. This is just a little jazz club, and he's at the bar. I just went up and said, "Hey, Dave," hung out with him. You know, and he, to his credit, I guess I didn't look threatening, because, you know, if I'm Dave Weckl and just some rando comes up to me, I would be a little bit hesitant, but he wasn't. He's just like totally cool, and, you know, I didn't talk with him too long. You know, I don't want to, I'm sure he had other people to talk to it, but I just said, "Hey, you know, I love your drumming," and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so his drumming and the Chick Corea band, you know, so I actually bought some Chick Corea songbooks, and I learned some of the piano, just because the piano's great too. But a lot of the syncopations that they do in that band are actually Chick. You know, Chick writes these things out. But what's cool is, so Chick will write out like the bass note, and then, you know, it'll say drum solo, but he'll put in these little bass notes, just every so often, a bass note that Weckl and Patitucci, I always screw up the last name, but
John Patitucci on the bass.
John Patitucci. Sorry, John. like he's watching this. But anyway, so they would always nail these. So Weckl's like doing these killer solos, but then would nail this one little bass hit with his kick drum and a cymbal usually. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So that was my inspiration for what I was going to play. You know, I'm no Dave Weckl, but I tried to get these little things in there, like, you know, those things. And so with this, you know, I'm always locked in with the bass, so I got that part. But I tried to kind of like put it into the fill, like Weckl does. So, you know, I don't, you know, my chops aren't what they once were, and I should probably practice more, but what the hell. So that was the third inspiration. And then the fourth inspiration for the groove, you know. In high school, a friend of mine gave me this tape of Stuart Hamm in the 80s. I'm no bass guy, but a friend of mine just gave me this tape, and it was just this maestro bass player and killer drummer too. And I don't even know if there was guitar, but it was focused on the bass. And then as a drummer, I'm listening to the drums too. And these guys, they would just play these killer grooves. Like, he would do an album full of killer grooves. And so that kind of inspired me for the main groove. And this thing's only a minute, so I'm just doing a little bit of the groove. And then I do a little bit of a solo section with the Weckl things. And then go back to the groove. And then just end it. Yeah, that's it. And so that was it, you know, it was just fun. And I wanted to do it quickly, just, you know, to post it while the Michael Schack video was still fresh in everyone's memory. So I didn't want to spend much time on this thing. You know, you can spend days and days on videos, even like a minute-long video. You can spend even a month, like I've been in actual commercials where it's only 30 seconds, but it takes them freaking months to get the whole thing together. So you can spend as much time or as little time. And so I wanted to do this one quickly. And so that's the inspiration. Now let's talk about the tech. So on the module, I didn't really like the snare drum sound. For me, it's more about the performance. I don't focus too much about sounds, just because I'm not really a sound engineer. That said, I appreciate it when it sounds awesome. So that's why like something like V-Expressions is so great. So they do all that stuff for you, and you just upload it, and then you've got access to all these killer kits. Otherwise, you're sitting in here, and you know you got to be willing to spend the time and also know what the heck you're doing to get different sounds. But I could tell that the snare drum sound wasn't really what I was looking for, so I went in and found a different snare drum sound that was already built in there, and I took the rim sound. So and then I assigned it's a rim shot. So I assigned the rim shot to both the head and the rim, because with this tiny little drum and the cage that the guy sold to me wasn't the right cage. Like, this snare drum is not supposed to be mounted this way. It's supposed to have its separate little arm. So it's not really positioned right. And I do have another arm that I could have used. Like I said, I was trying to just kind of get this done quickly. I spent enough time setting up the cymbals, for Christ's sakes. These two cymbals didn't come with the kit. These two did. So I'd already spent as much time as I wanted to on the physical hardware. So because the snare drum is kind of not in an ideal spot, I would find myself hitting the rim when I wasn't trying to. And so I was getting rim shots and regular head hits just mixed up, and it just didn't sound right. So I chose to put one sound and assign it to both the head and the rim, and the rim shot sound just sounded more, just snappier. So I did that, and then the cymbals, Oh, so that's the thing about this kit. So when you hit the bow of the cymbal, that triggers these, like, I don't even know what you call these sound effects. And then if you hit the, no, so that's the edge, sorry. And if you hit the bow, that's where you get the cymbal sound. Actually, originally I had the cymbals up higher because I liked the cymbals high, but I kept hitting the edge and getting the wrong sound when I wanted a cymbal sound. So I had to change my technique somewhat to make sure I was getting cymbal sounds when I wanted them. You know, so again, maybe that's something I could have fixed, but I didn't. This is my first time really using the TD-8, so I'm not going to spend hours trying to figure it out. I did spend a little bit of time, and I couldn't change it because of the backing tracks and the pattern features. It's not something that I'm very familiar with. So I lowered them so I could hit the bow when I wanted a cymbal sound. Now once I got that together, I wasn't happy with the cymbal sounds that they provided, so I ended up putting in Chinas. 2 Chinas, one is like a 16, the other's an 18. And I kept all the other stuff the same. Probably could have found cooler tom sounds, but again, I'm just trying to do it quickly. Happy with the kick sound. Hi-hat, I just left that. Sounds like a hi-hat. And the same with the ride. So I chose to use the bell of the ride primarily just because it kind of gave it that, it kept it moving along. So that was just a compositional choice that I chose. And it felt good too. This PD7 pad, it's weird at first glance to hit a drum pad as a cymbal, but in the Roland world, it was 3 years before they came out with the regular cymbal pad. So early adopters of Roland drums, this is what they used for cymbals all over the place. And I'm finding that it's kind of, for the ride and the hi-hat, I actually like it. You know? You can do those little things really easily on using the pad, and then same with the ride. So I like the PD7s for the hi-hat and the ride, but for crashes, you know, it just doesn't seem right because I usually dig in pretty hard to the crashes, whereas I don't really do that. Maybe with the hi-hat, but you know, whatever. Oh, and the other nice thing is I was able to position the hi-hat so I'm not crossing too much. Like, it still crosses a little bit, but I can go like this freely without the risk of hitting the sticks, which is something on an acoustic set. You know, it's always kind of a problem. Your hi-hat is over here and you run the risk of, you know, hooking your sticks. Oh my God, this video is going to take forever. But I swear, you know, even a little minute-long video, there is a lot to consider. You know, it's just, so I'm talking through all those things. I did spend a little bit of time, I thought about muting those things out, but I couldn't figure out how, so I just said, screw it, I'll embrace it, and I'll start the damn video. I'll start the video with them. It's like, man, you know, if I can't get rid of them, I'm gonna, you know, feature them. And then I ended up hitting it again towards the end. One other thing I forgot to mention, the kick pedal. So this set originally came with a pad, very similar to these other pads, and then you play it with a regular bass drum pedal. So when I bought this kit, the guy didn't sell me that. He sold me a newer tower, kick tower, and no pedal. But I had this F.A.T pedal that I bought you know, this other guy selling me cheap stuff that I ended up selling and actually turned a profit from. But I kept this pedal. This F.A.T pedal, you know, it harkens back quite a ways to the earlier days of electronic drums. And it was used by professionals. Neil Peart, I remember, and I'm sure some others. He used it just to trigger various like sounds, but I don't think he used it as an actual bass drum. But I thought I'd give it a try. And this is the first time I've actually used this too. And I found that it's got a unique action. So, and it worked really well with this very specific application because it doesn't have a beater that hits up against a pad, and then that pad would trigger the sound, which is what most modern electronic kick drums do. This is just a beat. It's just like it's called a controller, and it's just a pedal, and when the pedal hits the bottom, it triggers a sound. And what's cool about this is you can actually, with enough nuance and this specific kit, I can get bass notes to sound without a bass drum sound. So I don't know exactly what was going on, but I noticed it and I thought, well, that's cool, because I don't necessarily want every bass note to be tied to a kick, you know. So it was totally accidental, like how I found it, and then the notes that came out. But like there are some notes in there that you'll hear in the video that don't have a kick, and so it's cool. It just added to the coolness. So this pedal came in handy. It's just one of those things. F.A.T pedal, F.A.T, and that stands for Foot Action Trigger. F.A.T, Foot Action Trigger. So yeah, and then the hi-hat is the standard FD7 hi-hat controller from Roland. So it's all Roland except for the kick trigger is the F.A.T pedal. And then the way I recorded this, you know, for just playing in the room, you know, no in-ears for me. So I've got a little monitor, and then I've got that connected to the master out left. The master out right actually was connected to my microphone recorder, which I'm using right now to record my audio voice. So I connected it direct to my little voice recorder. And then the headphones went into the camera. That's just kind of standard for me now. When I do any sort of shoot, I make sure I have 2 audio tracks in case there's something wrong with one of them. I don't have to reshoot footage. And in this case, what happened was the sounds that I got were pretty different. So on the camera it's a little distorted. So I've got the 2 different audio tracks, and then when I went to edit the shot, I combined them. So I took the camera audio, which is distorted, which is kind of cool for bass guitar, you know, just like gives it a little bit of grit. I put it lower in the mix, but it's there, so there's a little bit of distortion. So there's distortion on the drums too, which, you know, whatever, I'll take it. So yeah, it turned out awesome. It's only a minute long, but it's cool, man, you know, it's a lot of fun. TD-8.